Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com and welcome to another edition of Inside the Zone alongside Tom Davis. I'm Glenn Marini, and we're only 2 weeks, really 3 weeks into the postseason, 2 games into the postseason, and we really only have a handful of teams still left around. Those sectional finals will be played this coming Friday. And Tom, just as an overview, what have you seen so far from local teams in the playoffs?
Well, I think the 4 Wayne teams have fared well for the most part, as their tough competition during the season helps them progress. However, as you get deeper into the sectional, and this is an obvious point, you play better and better competition. And there were several teams last week that ran into an obstacle that they couldn't overcome, and that was the weather, the driving rain, particularly Homestead. Their offense is predicated on speed, execution, and the passing game on that field turf that they play their home games on, and they got into a mud bog in Warsaw, and they just couldn't pass at all. They only completed 2 passes. So there were a number of games last week that were really affected by the weather. Harding's another one where they couldn't run the ball nearly as well as they wanted to.
Yeah, and that's where I want to start, as you mentioned, the Homestead game, because when we take a look at Sectional 3, the sectional finals, you're going to have Schneider at Warsaw. And when it comes down to it, I think when we saw the bracket out, we were all thinking, okay, a Snyder-Homestead final, most likely at Homestead on the turf. It's going to be very interesting. What do you see in this one? Because is Warsaw good enough to compete, not only compete, but to beat a Schneider team that's playing really well?
Not beat them, but compete, yes. Snyder's going to have to play very well to win this game, especially being at Warsaw. Warsaw has a predominantly running attack, but they can pass some. They threw 7 times even in a driving rainstorm last week. So if Schneider doesn't play their A game, are they capable of losing? Certainly they are, but I don't foresee that happening. Schneider is too balanced. They have a much better passing attack than Warsaw does, and they can run the ball extremely well. That's why they've won 8 of the last 9 sectionals, is because of their Schneider.
And if you're taking a look at what Warsaw does, you mentioned they have Andy Conrad running the football. He's been effective all season long. Big quarterback in Justin Clements. He's a good player as well. But I can't imagine Kokomo, even with their backup quarterback, would be worse than Warsaw.
No, it's probably pretty comparable, but the strength and size of the Schneider players up front, I think, will really be the difference, and I think you'll see Schneider be able to run the ball really well. And then when Warsaw brings 8 guys up in the box and really crowds the box, that's when Tyler Bobilia will hit receivers for long gains. So just the balance of mixing in a little bit of passing with the predominant running game will keep Schneider ahead.
So you like the Panthers to come out of this one victorious. What do you think point spread?
I would think by 14 or 17. It's going to be a comfortable margin, not a blowout, but a comfortable margin.
Couple scores for the Schneider Panthers then in your estimation.
Yes.
Moving on to sectional 11, that's in 4A football. Columbia City, kind of a surprise in this one.
Absolutely.
At Bishop Dwenger, but we've said it here on Inside the Zone the last few weeks. They are one of the most consistently improving teams here in Northeast Indiana, and they proved it again on Friday, beating a solid East Noble team.
Randy Hudgens is a first-year coach, young guy who went to Hanover College and ran the spread offense down there, and he's implemented that in Columbia City, and it's taken a while for that offense to take hold and the kids to learn the system. What's really frustrating to them is right as the kids were getting really good with it, their quarterback, Logan Rarer, went out with an injury and is out for the rest of the season. However, other kids have stepped up and played well, and Columbia City is doing what everybody wants to do, and that's play their best football at the end of the season. Now, is it good enough to beat Dwenger? Certainly not. It's not going to. Their season will end this week. But kudos to the Columbia City program for really making strides this year, and it really should give them great momentum going into the offseason and then leading into next year as well.
Connor Slavoj, number 21, I remember looking at him down the roster in that Elmhurst game, and I was like, who is this guy?
Right.
And I was looking for Logan Rarer somewhere on the sideline. He's in street clothes. What I understand, he's got a little fracture in his skull or something that he sustained.
It was a non-football related injury, is what I was told. So he's out for the year. I was told that. And Connor's going to have to step up under intense conditions this Friday and face a team that's arguably the best 4A team in the state. And so it's going to be a tough chore for him. But certainly nothing to hang their head about. Columbia City has a lot to be proud of after the tournament run they've had.
All right, let's move on to Sectional 12. That's, again, also in 4A. Wayne at Delta. This is a really intriguing matchup, I think, because we saw Southside obviously go down to Delta in week 1 of the postseason and have some trouble with the Eagles. They've got the field turf. Considering the way Wayne runs the football, is this a good thing for them that it's not going to be all torn up like it was this past Friday, or at least because they don't have grass, it's not going to be as torn up?
Absolutely. It'll help Wayne. That's what they like to do, is run the ball. But I'll tell you this, Wayne passed the ball in their sectional opener against Marion pretty successfully, and Coach Getz acknowledged that afterwards, talked about how pleased he was with the passing game. Delta last week was another one of those teams that really struggled in the weather conditions. They barely won. They played Southside again, only this time it was Muncie Southside instead of Fort Wayne Southside. They only won 7-6, and they needed a pass catch by Logan Young, their IU-bound receiver, to win that game in the fourth quarter. This is going to be on field turf. It's not supposed to rain Friday night, so weather's not going to be a factor. But Wayne will try to run the ball predominantly against Delta, but playing the fifth-ranked Eagles at Delta is going to be a really tough task for him. So I would be shocked if Wayne pulls it out. Hope they do, rooting for the local kids, but I would be stunned if they do.
If you're Wayne, do you have a little more confidence this time around? Last year they made the sectional finals game and lost that one, but they've got a good group of kids. They're back in it again. Do you think that experience maybe pays off a little bit at this point?
Well, that experience does, and the experience of playing in the Summit Athletic Conference every single week. The thing about the SAC teams is every team they play in the tournament, they know is not going to overwhelm them. There's nobody that's going to be physically stronger than, say, Schneider or Dwenger or Southside, even as far as speed goes. And so you're not going to run into an opponent that you're like, oh my God, what do we have here? You've faced the best teams in the state already, so you're not going to be shocked by anything. So they're not going to go down to Delta and just roll over and die. They're going to have to play well, but Delta's going to have to play well. And as Muncie Southside showed last week, on a given night, anything can